Welcome to Complicated Opportunities, a CosmereRPG podcast with a couple of GMs. This week, we are going to have an interview. We are going to be joined by Michael Paylor. He is a writer, game designer, editor, AP producer, storyteller, GM, and voiceover. But the reason we were put in contact with Michael is he was actually the mind behind the Epic Stormlight game that was played at Dragonsteel Nexus that I was able to GM. I had a blast running that adventure. So, yeah, Michael, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you so you can introduce yourself, and then we'll just get rolling with the conversation.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, I mean, that's pretty much the introduction. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for going out there and killing a whole bunch of characters for me. I can't do it from where I am, and you had a shot at 400 of them. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I had the distinct pleasure and honor of being able to write the Nexus game, which was absolutely a blast from beginning to end. My only regret is not being there to see it. And as you said, I'm a writer, I'm a game designer. I am 1/3 of one game company and 50% of another one. I don't sleep a lot, but I have a lot of fun.
That is awesome. So, why don't you kind of just walk us through a little bit of your background? Like, see, how'd you end up in this weird and crazy TTRPG world? And then we'll get into how you got hired to do the Stormlight game.
Yeah, I mean that is a very long and windy story. Believe it or not, at 16, I actually owned a pet food supply company. I owned 3 different franchises that did pet supplies, and I did that for 4 or 5 years. From there, I bounced into acting, and actually, just before we started rolling, I was talking about I spent 10 years as a professional actor. I owned a theater company. I did a lot of directing and producing. All of that brought me out to the West Coast because I started kind of, I suppose I should say I'm Canadian. I started in Toronto area and moved out to Vancouver area after that. Myself and my partners were working some pretty awful corporate jobs for a while. It was killing us. We decided we hated it, so we made a huge leap and started a game company. And kind of the rest is history. Through the game company, we produced something called Quest Chest, which is modules in a box with physical props. I'm going to do a small plug. Please go check it out. You can still pre-order it on BackerKit. We produced a whole bunch of those, and they flew. And that's how I met Merrick, who I believe you've spoke before.
Yeah.
Merrick is genuinely one of my favorite people. He put me in contact with the Brotherwise folks. I started writing for them, and here we are. I've done a bunch of projects with them. I'm hoping to do a lot more in the future. And that's how I ended up working on the Nexus event.
That's awesome. Yeah, Merrick is actually one of the 3 people that I met at Nexus in 2024 that convinced me to start GMing and step out of the player's role. So, yeah. So, is there any stuff from before you started working with Brotherwise that you wanted to kind of just walk through as far as like how did you get into the writing aspect in particular and writing adventures?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a GM since I want to say like 14 years old. So a lot longer than I would like to recount on anything that's going to be recorded. Um, I wouldn't say I've been writing that entire time because the skills are not necessarily exactly the same. But the more I worked on world building, the more I worked on creating my own games, the more I really wanted to figure out the nuts and bolts of how professionals did it. And so I found that I was dissecting pre-play modules and basically anything I could get my hands on, primarily Vampire the Masquerade. That is where I grew up. That is where my heart lives. But pretty much any system that I could find. The more I got into that, the more interested I got in how it was done. And I started writing professionally when we started Bookworm Games, which is one of the companies that I'm a co-owner of. We needed module content, and we do have other writers in our crew, but no game writers. So I started doing that. Quest Chest was the very first thing that we did that was commercially quite viable. We've started doing Artifacts Arcanum. We just actually BackerKit funded Willamere, which is our very own system and our very own game. So I kind of been doing that for 4 years. It's only in the last year or so I've started working with Brotherwise.
Nice.
Nice. Did you have any experience with the Cosmere as a fan before coming to work on this, or is that something that you sort of like? Okay.
Oh yes, very much so. I will admit to you and to the world, I still will occasionally stop in the middle of the room, hold my hand out for 10 heartbeats just to see what happens. One day it's gonna happen for me.
One
I
day.
swear, one day.
I love that.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so I guess you got to kind of walk me through like where you got hooked up with Merrick and Brotherwise and like how they brought you on to start writing with them.
Yeah, so I met Merrick sort of like it's really interesting how people meet each other, sort of by accident. We were at Edmonton Fan Expo in Canada, I want to say 2 years ago at this point. He stopped by the booth and I did not meet him at all, but he saw the quest chests and poked through them, was very interested. He left the con and regretted not purchasing one, so he sent a friend in to grab it. Part of the quest chests, we provide digital resources. There's a QR code, leads you to the music, leads you to all the maps, leads you to the full story, everything you need to run the game. He scanned that and then hunted me down because there was a mistake with one of the items. And he helped me correct it, which I really, really appreciated. Through that, we actually just started back and forthing and talking about our love of games and how we have our own creative process. He was working at a different job at that point. It's been so cool to watch him take the reins of Plot Weaver and do all the work he's doing with Brotherwise. But as he was kind of going through that process and I was developing more quest chests and more coins, he started to see the work that I was doing. He then was asked to run Stormlight Scenarios, which is an e-supplement for the CosmereRPG. If you haven't tried it out, please do try it out. It's exceptional. I'm biased, obviously, but I think it's really good. He asked me to write one of those scenarios, and so I did. I hadn't touched the CosmereRPG system Plot Weaver previous to that, but it is so elegant. I had so much fun working. After that, basically anytime they asked, I will make myself available, or I did make myself available for more.
Yeah,
Nice.
which one of the scenarios we haven't got to run them yet. We're actually getting ready to do a teaching someone how to GM, and we're going to be using the Stormlight scenarios to do that since they require such little prep. So which one were you able to write?
So I wrote The Cost of Redemption, which is the very final scenario.
Yeah, that's the one that I'm the most interested in running for sure. Because you don't get to see a lot of. That's actually one of the things we've talked about a little bit, not necessarily on the podcast, but off the air. That like, there's not a lot of tier 3 content out there. Because like, come on, let's play with let's get our shard blades, let's get our plate, like let's have some fun with this. So yeah, I'll definitely be checking that one out because that's one of the things that we want to look into is some more tier 3 stuff. Yeah. So I guess so what is it like writing? Actually, I'm going to pivot a little to Stormlight Scenarios just because you brought that up. Like, what is it like writing one of those where it's like, hey, you GM, you only need 10 minutes to prep and run this? Like, so what kind of stuff do you have to think about from the writer's perspective?
So there's a lot of stuff. First and foremost, I really like systems and games that require that 10 minutes of prep. The system that I designed and we launched with Willamere very specifically has the North Star of 10 minutes of prep, 5 minutes of character creation, hours of fun. So honestly, those sorts of I don't want to say small, but those sorts of easily accessible games are right in my wheelhouse, and it's what I love. So from that side, my brain is already tuned to thinking about how can we make this a little bit easier, how can we make it more accessible without losing any of the depth of storytelling. What makes it complicated with the CosmereRPG is just the depth of lore. There is so much context that you need if you want to have, every couple of minutes that like, oh my God, that's what that is. The real challenge is making it fun for somebody who has spent the last, decade and a half immersing themselves in this lore and getting to know it and living and breathing it, but make it equally fun for somebody who has never played a TTRPG, who hasn't read even one of the books, and hopefully this is going to kick them into buying the entire series. So just keeping
Exactly.
those two dynamics in mind is primarily the thing. First and foremost, who doesn't love a sword that appears out of nowhere? I don't care if you've never read this book before, you are going to love that. Who doesn't love flying bad guys? Who doesn't love glowing sigils on armor that appears out of the mists? I think these things, they're touchstones that go well beyond the Cosmere, but to somebody who understands the Cosmere, they're going to be flashy, very exciting things to experience. I think finding those specific touch points that are easily accessible both in popular lore, but also in the lore of the Cosmere is the key.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
those are really good touch points to mention on. Now, obviously, you wrote this good tier 3 adventure for Stormlight scenarios. What was the process of writing a massive tier 3 adventure in the con game? Was Epic Stormlight, is that the official name that we went with, or they went with?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So the title of the, I guess to give the listeners some backstory, since we all know, the adventure is titled "Heroes of the Heroes of the Lost Desolation." I almost said Last Desolation. I'm like, that's not right. Heroes of the Lost Desolation. And they called it Epic Stormlight when you were like signing up for everything going into the convention. But yeah, so like walk us through that, because that is I was mind blown as a GM when we got the packet, and it's like, holy crap, there's 3 full adventures that 400 people are going to be running at the same time. Like, yeah, that is just mind-blowing to me, who struggles to write my own homebrew games. So yeah, tell us how that came about, to even just start writing it, and then like through the writing process as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, really exciting when it was Lila originally reached out to me and asked if I was available to write it. There was a little bit of a time crunch. I'm not privy to anything that went on kind of behind the scenes. I don't know what the path towards this was. But when Lila reached out, she said, "Hey, you're a very fast writer. We're happy with the quality of your work. We need this done, and also it's going to be due in about 2 weeks. Do you think you can do it?" And after the initial bout of mind-numbing terror, that was an extremely exciting opportunity. So that was the kick into that, and then it genuinely was just like a week and a half of getting down some really, I thought, exciting concepts, some fun things about what each of the groups could do, and then splitting it up into exciting scenes and things the GMs could kind of pick and choose and grapple onto and use to stitch together that exciting moment. I always knew that the objective was to get it towards a big Thunderclast fight at the end. That was something that had already been pre-discussed. So I just needed to drive towards that epic moment as hard as I could. It was a blast. It was so much fun.
Yeah. I mean, from a GM perspective, just running it, if it hit all of those, it just hit all those fun moments that like you would want to see in a Stormlight adventure. So like, what parts of the system itself like got you excited to make sure that you were highlighting through there?
Endeavors are sick. Like,
Speaking my language.
one of the challenges in TTRPGs, generally speaking, is making sure that everyone feels involved. It is so easy for one player to just kind of run away with the spotlight, while the person at the table who is maybe a little bit less confident or maybe a little bit less experienced with the yes and of improv sits there and just listens. Endeavors are so well designed to engage absolutely everybody at the table. No matter what your comfort level is describing a scene, you're going to input in a way that feels me. Playing with Endeavors generally in this system is an absolute joy, and it was something that I really wanted to highlight when introducing it to a whole bunch of people who probably really knew the Cosmere, but didn't necessarily know TTRPGs or this specific TTRPG. So making sure to get really meaningful endeavors in there was super high on my list of priorities.
Yeah, and I can actually speak to that, because my table, we had 6 people per table, and mine had 5 people that had never played a TTRPG ever.
Wow.
And one who had played like 3 one-shots of D&D, and that was it. And by the end of it, now I'm not gonna lie, I cheated a little bit on the last part. I'll let all of them swear the ideal, because I'm like, come on, like who wants to be the one person that doesn't get to, right?
I won't tell anyone. It's fine.
Yeah. But like, it was so cool seeing them like get comfortable as the adventure went along. Because they start off like, just to let the listening audience know, like you're basically starting off being sent on a quest from like the person who's leading the keep there, and it just gives you a little bit of everything. Like, you get the endeavor to get out to somewhere, you're rescuing some villagers, or at least the part of the adventure I ran, and then you've got to like fight your way back. You've got the classic little bridge fight scene where like you're trying to get people in, but the fused and the regals are attacking you the whole time, and then it ends with a thunderclast fight. and during the Thunderclass fight, people could swear the fourth ideal. So it was cool because I let everyone know ahead of time, and then like I'm watching as we're going, and in between, they all wrote their own ideals. Like so, when I got to the last fight during the Thunderclass fight, they're all sitting there, had handwritten their own fourth ideal for their different order. So like seeing people engage in that way was just so much fun. Like I'm getting chills just thinking about it because like they just had an absolute blast playing it. So there's a little real time feedback for you about how the adventure landed. So yeah, it was that was a lot of fun.
I really
Uh,
appreciate hearing that. That honestly, that was something that I was really hoping would happen. That's why that was in there. I wanted because I couldn't be there. I really wanted to be there to see it happen. But I wanted these tables where people were standing up and reciting their own ideals. Like to hear that that's exactly what happened. Hell yeah, psyched.
yeah, it was so fun, so fun. Yeah, Irving, what do you have any questions that have popped up? I know I've been kind of rambling a lot because I did get to run
Well,
it.
you got to run the adventure. I did not. I went home. I think I went to a cool bar that night.
I
But
think so.
it was like it was super cool to hear the stories about it. And now I guess just like as someone who's never experienced a game on that large of scale that's like tying in the events of like other tables together, what like mechanics did you use to do that? Is there another game that you sort of like cribbed some ideas from, or is that, you kind of came up with that all on your own?
I mean, I'm sure that I was influenced over, more than 20 years worth of gaming from multiple sources. I don't know that I can pinpoint a single place where I can say, "Oh, I took this idea from here," but it all just becomes a slurry in your head, and then you
Absolutely,
just
yeah.
start outputting whatever has gone in. Um, I I'm going to say a lot of it is hand wavy. I live a lot of my creative life by a theater maxim, which is 30% and 30 feet. You only need to finish about 30% of what the audience is going to see, and everything looks good from about 30 feet away. So there's a lot of hand waving that went into this. The objective wasn't necessarily to come up with three storylines that stitch perfectly together. The objective was to provide a solid skeleton that came together right at the very end, where individual things that people had done could affect that last moment. It feels very connected, and it is very connected, but a lot of that connection comes down to the GMs and how they ultimately end up telling that story at the end. The choices that the players make. It makes it so much easier as a designer to offload some of that onto the players.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that that's a theater maxim. Like I don't have a theater background, so I don't know these things, but that is kind of a core part of GMing is like they need to see what's in front of them. The buildings can be facades. They don't need to like have every single interior planned out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So we
Kyle, continue.
Oh yeah, yeah, no problem. What are some, I guess, tips you would even have for people that are out there that are going to be writing adventure? Brandon owns, not Brotherwise. Um, so like when you're writing an adventure like this, like where do you find that line between hand wavy, like making sure that you're including all the fun elements to show off the system versus also just putting it back on like, hey, like GM players need to be able to tell their story. If that question makes sense. I know I said a lot in one sentence.
No, no. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. So I don't know about necessarily giving advice to other people as to how to do it, but I can say the way I do it is I have and probably this is what the vast majority of writers are doing here. I have set piece ideas. I have visuals, individual static images that I say, okay, this is definitely what I want a player to be experiencing. This is an exciting climactic moment. And then planting that flag, I kind of start to move both forward and backwards away from it, getting a little bit more granular and a little bit more granular until I built the staircase up to that moment. Everything that's off of that staircase is kind of the flesh and the muscle that players and GMs are going to be adding in. But as they're building that, they're building on top of that skeleton that I've already kind of populated. It's maybe kind of a wishy-washy answer to your question. But the best advice that I can give is find those set piece moments, find that epic ideal swearing moment, find that moment where there is a radiant squire standing on top of a cliff, and they get to either participate or watch that moment happen. Find those moments that give those chills, and then build forward and backwards away from them, so that you are always having those really exciting beat moments that string the players along, but they have their agency in between.
Nice. That's great. There's this is gonna sound like the weirdest tie-in ever, but like when you're building I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and when you build a pro wrestling match, that's actually a lot of how they build the matches. It's like, which pro wrestling's honestly live theater, let's be honest. Like they think of, you've got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I've heard, ironically, Stone Cold Steve Austin talk about it, where he's like, I've got 5 bullet points. The in-betweens we make up depending on how the audience reacts, but we know we're going to these North Star points to help drive the story along. So that actually really ticks in my brain, at least. Yeah, Irving, do you have any like writing-based questions? Since we're lucky enough to get a writer on the podcast.
Yeah. Just in turn, like, so when you write these big moments, how do you feel? Like, obviously writing to and back from them is important. How many do you like to sort of sprinkle in per event like this? Obviously, a big event game, I feel like there are probably more than what you do for like a home game, or even what you do. Like, I don't know the quest chests, how those exactly work, but is it a very similar process where like, hey, I want to hit this point, I need this many bullet points, and this is how I build between them?
Yeah, I mean, it's not dissimilar. It is just a different scale. I will say I don't often come in saying, okay, methodically, I have this many bullet points that I need to hit. It's more that I think about the story and I try and think of, if I were a player, what would make me sit back in my chair and go, holy shit. And then I build back and forth from those. Usually, if I'm trying to analyze it, I'd say usually per act, I'm trying to find one of those, a really big one, and then just a couple of flashbulb moments. So, two to three per sit-down session that aren't massive, maybe, but are exciting. And then for each kind of big arc, there would be all these little ones kind of add up to a staircase to a single larger one.
Okay. Now, when and if you play on your own time, are you more of a GM or a player?
Oh my gosh, I'm a GM just constantly.
Yeah.
I will say, with everything that we're doing, with the 2 businesses that I'm running plus the freelance work, I don't play a lot anymore. I used to,
Yeah.
but I don't play a lot anymore. The last couple of times I've played have honestly been on other people's actual plays, and there I get to be a player, which is wonderful. But generally speaking, I'm a GM.
Mhm. Now, do you ever do you GM your own story? Like, if you're running like as a test, do you GM the story when you test it?
I do, yes. I do have other
Okay.
people do it as well,
Yeah.
depending on what it is we're working on. Luckily, through Brotherwise, they have a very robust kind of playtesting system. So I don't have to offload that myself onto other people. I can just playtest with my own group and then let the numbers come in from elsewhere, which is very handy. But for anything for my companies that I do, I playtest and then I also hand off to other people and have them playtest.
Yeah. Do you feel like that can be a difficulty, like playing or testing your own stuff? Do you find that
Yes.
like sometimes you don't want to kill your darlings, or if there's a moment that doesn't work, well, it worked for you because you know the implicit text that's not there, but someone else might
Constantly.
not, and then you realize like, oh, I need to explain this bit of context. Did you have anything like that with oh gosh, the Radiance of the Lost Desolation? Is that what it was?
Heroes of the Lost Desolation.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
so sorry.
No, you're all good. You're fine. It's in my brain because I worked on it hard. It doesn't have to be in anyone else's brain. That's okay.
I I keep referring to it as Epic Stormlight because that's what it was billed as. And
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's not what it is.
I mean, arguably, you're fine. That is what it is. I think generally speaking, yes. Like I do find it challenging to play test my own stuff for exactly the reason that you said. Like part of the reasons you play test is to find the pitfalls, to find the areas where things aren't maybe well explained, to find the areas where a GM says, okay, hang on a second, I don't really understand what's going on here. The problem with playtesting those sorts of things myself is, of course, my brain glosses over those pitfalls because I know what the answer is. Like, you don't know what you don't know, and you do know the things that you do know, and you can't swap those states. You really need somebody who doesn't know what you know to be able to write and say, look, you forgot this very obvious thing.
Yeah. Now, so we have a lot of listeners who are either interested in making their own stuff for people to consume or like getting into game design. What like sort of tips would you have for someone who is like currently a GM, but all GMs are kind of prospective writers in a way, and wants to like kind of break that barrier?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great question. First off, please start. Please do it. Please let's go. More blood, more writers, more
Yeah.
GMs. If we populate the world with GMs, maybe I will get to be a player more often, and that would be wonderful. Jump in with both feet, I think, is the start of my advice for that. I think it's not necessarily going to be a revelatory statement to say I wish I'd started earlier. I think that a lot of people, you hear this all the time in creative circles, a lot of people hold themselves back because they don't feel confident in doing it. They maybe don't necessarily see the runway in front of them. They don't know the steps to take. I don't know what would have happened if I'd started 10 years ago or 15 years ago. I certainly wouldn't have been in the same place because the path I took led me where I am right now. But I do wish that I had started trying a little bit earlier, because clearly the pieces were there. The skill sets that you develop as a GM are very complementary to the skill sets of a writer. There's the world building, there's the lore, there's empathy is a huge piece. Being able to think about what other people would do helps you build realistic, very cool characters. I think GMs have this sort of skill set in spades. So jump right in with both feet is my first advice. Secondly, write everything down. Don't trust your memory. I trusted my memory for a very long time for gaming, and I found that just does not work with writing. Write absolutely everything down, and submit. Reach out. Once you've developed a little bit of a portfolio, find the groups that you want to work with. Find the things that you're incredibly passionate about, and submit. Reach out. There's human beings on the other end of the line. Give it a shot. See what happens.
Yeah, so that's great advice. I do think that the sort of preventing yourself from getting out there as a creative is maybe the biggest jump. People just need to like bite the bullet and jump.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Getting into the water. Like I haven't published anything. I don't know if I will. Maybe I want to, but it's the sort of thing where it's like you gotta create the stuff and put it out there. Some people like it, some people won't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. But I think as long as you like it, that's the objective.
Mhm.
The stuff that we created with Quest Chest, which by the way, I have to call out my partner for Quest Chest is Austin Hartel, who is dungeon artist. He is absolutely incredible, really, really enormously talented. He and I didn't design Quest Chest commercially. It's done very well commercially, which is really helpful. But it was designed for us because we love the stories that we're telling in it. We love physical props. We love being able to do the things that we do there. I would say if you're looking at migrating from being a GM, being a world builder, into being kind of a professional creative, also not a revelatory statement, do what you love. Find something that sets you on fire and play it out loud, because that is the only way that you are going to really enjoy what you're doing and really succeed.
That's awesome.
Nice. That's fantastic to hear. In the CosmereRPG, what is your favorite encounter, endeavor, little piece of story that you've written? Can be published, can be unpublished. Can't break any NDAs. Don't do that. But
No. I was just thinking the stuff that I'm most excited about has not hit shelves yet, and I cannot talk about it.
Okay.
I will say the most exciting thing is something that is upcoming, and have me back in a year and we'll talk again, and I can answer that question honestly. But right now it's something I can't talk about. For published material, so I also wrote the Gen Con game from 2 years ago or a year ago. Um, Pedal to the Metals, which
Oh,
is
you wrote
Mistborn.
pedals?
Oh, you wrote
Okay.
pedals. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit.
yeah.
So we both run that.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Cool. Well, I hope it was
Yeah.
also a fun experience. I will say of the things I can talk about, probably that. I got to design a racing system, a racing endeavor, which is not something that existed before. We got to play around with the idea of what could you do in terms of attacking vehicles in motion that doesn't necessarily require hit points for a vehicle.
Yeah.
That entire story was a lot of fun, and it was my first touch into the Mistborn RPG, which has been genuinely a blast to work.
I'm so glad you didn't do hit points for the vehicles.
Yes.
I
We
I think it was interesting. Like, obviously, as you know, as someone that plays a lot of games, I have my opinions on what I would do different. But like, you made a product that was out there and played very well. So like, I enjoyed that immensely. I guess I should have checked the writing credits. I'm sure they were in the packet.
I don't. Yeah, I can't remember if they were or not now. Yeah, we both ran it at Nexus this year, and I got to play it at Gen Con. I didn't get to run it. I was just running Speak the Words at Gen Con last year. But we also, just a funny aside, like every single session of that I've ever seen, someone always jumps out of the car to try to jump into another car. Every single
At
time.
Nexus, no one jumped out of the car.
Really?
What?
No,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I ran it
Missed opportunity.
twice, and I was so shocked. Like both times, I was like, "No one's jumping out of the car."
Almost
Really?
every single time I've ran it, the Colossus Blooded gunner jumps out of the car. Every
Oh,
single
yeah.
time.
It's objectively the right choice.
Correct.
That's why the cars are open topped, so that you can do that.
Yep. That is
So,
awesome.
oh man. Well, when we can talk more about that, I want to talk about the process of writing pedals because I don't think we can probably talk over much about it.
Yeah, I don't want to put anybody in any
Yeah.
danger on that one, so we'll just hold tight. But we
I
will
appreciate
absolutely bring you back to talk about that because we had a blast with pedals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, have you got to play much of the Cosmere RPG?
Nope, I have not. I spend most of my time immersed in design and writing for it. We've played a little bit, just like in our house. Obviously, I was a day one backer of the Kickstarter, and so as stuff is arriving, I'm very excitedly opening it up. But our household, just candidly, is quite busy. One of my partners is actually a finalist on Canada Reads. If you don't know what that is, please look it up. Their book is actually number 3 seller in Canada right now, which I'm very excited about. One of my other partners is an incredible artist, and she's constantly head down in that. And another one of my partners is actually also writing for the Cosmere a little bit, which is very, very cool. So like as a business, we're wildly busy and we don't have a massive amount of time to actually play. But I will say with Plot Weaver coming up, we're probably going to be doing a lot more with this system in our own house. We're migrating away from the other systems that we use and we love, and we're moving more into this one.
Nice.
That sounds
Is
awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Plot Weaver because I honestly will probably branch out more with it.
Oh
Um,
yeah. I mean, what I was
yeah.
up till how late thinking of of ways to make Star Wars and Plot Weaver, or
Uh,
sorry, generic space fantasy with wizards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I made it very clear to Merrick. I'm like, oh, if we could ever get a Wheel of Time version of Plot Weaver, I would be all in all day.
Oh,
Um,
1000%. Let's go.
yes. So yeah, before we start wrapping up, do you have a character in the Stormlight settings? Because we can definitely talk about Stormlight. In the Stormlight setting that you would want to play if you were given the opportunity. Like if we were able to say whatever tier you want, what would you want to mess around with?
Oh my gosh, high tier Lightweaver.
Oh,
Let's
nice.
go. Absolutely. I am a Lightweaver. Like for sure. I spent a long time agonizing over what I would be, and the conclusion that I came to is Lightweaver. There's a moment, and I won't spoil it, but there's a moment in Wind and Truth with Shallan that just perfectly crystallized for me. Like this is you. So I've settled on that. A high tier Lightweaver, unquestionably. Give me that, and I will be happy for 100 sessions.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I've pretty much got all the questions in I wanted to get in. So we'll turn it over to you to let you get any plugs in, any socials, any products, anything you want to cover. The floor is yours.
Wicked. Well, yeah, I mean, thank you for having me on. It's been really, really fun to speak with you both. Again, I'll talk about this stuff all day. This is my jam. This is my bread and butter. If you want to find me, michaelpaylor.com. I'm pretty easy to find. You can hunt me down, no problem at all. I am 1/3 of Bookworm Games. I am 1/2 of Foxwing Games. You need dice. Come talk to me. You need modules. I can do that. You're looking for Kickstarter fulfillment. We do that as well. Bookworm Games actually is the merch partner for Theater of the Unaligned. Go check them out. They are sick. We sponsor Blackwater. We sponsor Dork Tales. You probably can't miss us if you like TTRPGs at all. So come hunt me down, and if you need something, let me know.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's
Well-
awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. All right. Well, I will go ahead and take us away. So please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow the Shard of Opportunity on YouTube, and you can get complicated opportunities on the Shard of Opportunity, and also anywhere that you will be getting any audio. So make sure to also ring that bell so the Storm Wardens alert you when episodes are out. But until then, let's roll the plot die and raise the stakes. This has been Complicated Opportunities.
Woo!